Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
So it's live now. Being recorded? So
Uh,
is it being recorded?
Yes, yes.
So good afternoon and greetings to one and all. There is some technical. Is it okay?
Yes.
It's okay. So good afternoon and greetings to one and all. On behalf of LDC Institute of Technical Studies, Prayagraj, Uttar Pradesh, India, I, Dr. Sudhanshu Singh, Head Department of Management Studies, welcome you all to this international guest lecture series. Today, we have a very prolific and a wonderful speaker, a senior academician, Professor Achintha Naike sir from Sabargamuwa University, Lohoya, Sri Lanka. Sir, this international guest lecture series is an attempt on our side just to provide our students with the exposure with the alternative perspective what our instructors, what our teachers are providing to them, so that they can get an opportunity to have interaction with an alternative perspective in this area. Since its inception way back in the year 2007, our institute, LDC Institute, has always endeavored to bring excellence in all academic corners and all academic directions. And in its continuous pursuit of excellence, organization of International Guest Lecture Series is another step in this direction. And to have today's interaction, other than Professor Achintha sir, no other better option could have we got. So I want all of you to please welcome sir. We had a wonderful session in this series. We have had the opportunity of having Professor Ali Akas Saab from Dhaka University, Bangladesh, then Dr. Shuchi Dubey from Manipal Academy, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. Then the third speaker was Dr. Shavik Sanyal from Dhofar University, Oman. The fourth one was Professor Bhojraj Aryal from University of Kathmandu, Nepal. And today, it's a welcome step that we are having today with us Professor Achintha sir, from Achintha Ekanayake sir from Sabargamuwa University, Lohoya, Sri Lanka. Sir, I am extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to extend heartiest welcome to such academic doyen of management education. So before we formally come on to the today's topic, I would request one of the faculty members and my colleague Sri Ankit ji to take us to the journey the college has passed through along these years. Sri Ankit ji, he will be telling us more about the college.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. LDC Institute of Technical Studies started in the year 2007 with the noble cause of providing higher education in the field of engineering and management. The institute features a perfect combination of basic elements of modern education system, that is faculty, students, curriculum, and placement. The institute has not only succeeded in providing aspirants with professional education of the highest standards, but also placing them in reputed companies and organizations. The academic program, including the mission of making knowledge work, which is achieved through experimental learning, national and international exposure, Our vision is to be recognized as an acknowledged centers of academic excellence of human value in the field of management, engineering, and technology education by all stakeholders. Our mission is to impart world-class knowledge in the field of management and engineering as per the modern needs. That's it from my side. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shri Ankit sir.
Yes.
So, since its inception in the year 2007, our college is marching ahead with a vision of providing excellent education, not only to the urban residents of Uttar Pradesh, India, but also we are providing excellent education to the rural part of this Uttar Pradesh also. And our chairman, Shri Sanjay Gupta ji, and the next generation of leadership being represented by Shri Suyash Gupta ji, this college, this institute is marching ahead with a vision of providing excellence in all possible corners of academic excellence and achievement. And inviting guests from Southeastern University is another step in this direction. So, uh, uh, we welcome you to this holy city of Prayagraj. It is called the king of all pilgrimages, the Tirtha Raja. So we welcome you to this holy city of Prayagraj, and we are grateful to you that you spared your valuable moments for us. And on just a single writing, you got agreed to my request. What a humble person you are, sir. This is something that one must learn from a person like you. Let me take this opportunity to introduce you all. Uh, this is actually a formal introduction of the sir, though sir needs no introduction. Yet, if sir allows me to take you all to the small journey, this is a brief CV that I am going to read about this sir. Though it's so long that it cannot be read in 1 hour or one day. Professor I.A. Ekanayake sir completed his first degree in BSc Business Management Special from Sabargamuwa University of Sri Lanka and completed his MBA in Operations Management from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapure, Sri Lanka. Currently serving the Faculty of Management Studies of Sabargamuwa University of Sri Lanka as a senior lecturer and the head of the Department of Business Management. Mr. Ekanayake sir is a past finalist of Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka and an associate management accountant of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka. Further, he is also an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka and a life member of Social Sciences and Humanities Research Association. He has also successfully completed Six Sigma Black Belt. Oh, wonderful, sir. He is also serving the country as a chief examiner for the Department of Commissioner General of Examination of Sri Lanka. Further, Professor Ekanayake was the immediate past coordinator of Diploma in Business Management and current coordinator of the Diploma in Professional Business Coaching offered by Sabargamuwa University of Sri Lanka and holds several other administrative positions in the university. And also, he is the editor-in-chief of the Udyama Management Digest Business Magazine of Faculty of Management Studies, Sabargamuwa University of Sri Lanka. Professor Ekanayake sir has published his research work in local and international conferences, edited books, as well as in international journals, and serves as a reviewer for both local and international journals. What a wonderful journey it has been, sir. Source of inspiration for many of our students too. So please join your hands together to welcome an extraordinary and a senior academician or doyen of management studies, Professor Achintha Ekanayake, sir. Sir, it is over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhanshu Singh, for inviting me to this session. And I congratulate LDC Institute of Technical Studies for the wonderful work that you have started to share international experience among your students. So it's a wonderful work because knowledge is everywhere. So we have to search knowledge among the world, even though we say that the world is on your palm today. it's widespread. So you can learn from anyone. So it's always better to learn from people from different cultures, because it's the world now, right? It's a knowledge-driven world, even though we talk about this technology, IT-driven. So it's all human work there. So we can learn from anyone, anywhere. So people have different diversities, and with the diverse set of knowledge, the work that you have started, or the technical sessions that you have started, it's a good move, and it's a learning experience to many of the leading institutes, I suppose, even not in India, throughout the world. First of all, before starting the session, I would like to congratulate LDC Institute of Technical Studies for starting
Sir,
such a kind of...
I personally feel that persons like us, the academicians of business management discipline, especially belonging to this Southeast Asian part of the globe, must coordinate and must communicate in session like these. This must be a regular event throughout the year.
Yes, exactly. Because as personally, even I also believe what you have said, sir, because we are in one region and we have common things to share, and most of our cultures are the same, and we can learn from each other. It will benefit our students, and finally the community will get served through these kinds of programs. Thank you. So let's start the session. So today I want to, or hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Clearly visible, clearly.
Yeah. Today, I would like to discuss here on the topic of disaster management for business. The reason for me to select this topic, disaster management, is you might be very familiar with this term, disaster, and you might be very familiar with the term management. But when we get this both together, disaster management, even though we talk about this subject in different tech contexts, when it comes to the management context, it's very rarely being taught and very rarely being discussed. And specifically when it comes to businesses, very few even research have been conducted on how disaster management are practiced in business, even though the term disaster management is taught or is discussed in the global level. So if you are in this 21st century, so you might be very familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals developed by United Nations. So it's a common agreement of all the parties or all the member nations to achieve 17 goals to be achieved by 2030. This has been developed in 2015, and it's a 15 years plan or goal to achieve as member nations. So I hope you are very familiar with these Sustainable Development Goals. And there you can see, I will go directly to the last line, 13 number, climate actions. The 14th one, life below water, that means sea. And life on land means the environment around us. So if you look at these 13, 14, and 15 goals developed by United Nations, it's particularly directly linked to the topic that we are going to discuss today. Many of the current research, even a lot of scholars and even practitioners and even a lot of NGOs are discussing at the global level about the climate change. So everyone knows that the world is changing or the climate is changing. So we have to act today. If we do not act today, the consequences will be very hard for us. So that's why we have to have a common agreement, and we should have common goals to save our nation, so to save our nature environment, as we all expect a sustainable world today. So this would be my content today. So we will basically discuss what's a disaster and how disasters harms a nation and disaster management cycle. So in my discussion today, I will mainly focus and I will mainly discuss disaster management in general terms, but the content is too valid for the business world, because disaster management, even we can do it at our individual level. We can go to our community and we can take actions at community level. We can go take about a country and we can talk about country disaster management, and we can think about the area, or at the global level, we can talk about global disaster management level. So as even individual businesses, here we have a duty, and directly disaster management impacts and have effect on disasters. That's why I have chosen this topic for the discussion today. So these are some of the pictures, photographs I have downloaded from the internet, and all these, I guess, are from Indian context. So very similarly, even Sri Lanka, we expect these things, not droughts as this, but we experience flood situations, sometimes heavy rains or hurricanes or heavy winds, maybe droughts, maybe floods like this. I hope sometimes you might have experienced this in your life at least once, or if you have not experienced, you are very lucky. And but even if you have not experienced this by your own, you might have heard, you might have listened to these types of very bad news. So this is from India. And very recently, in last October, you might all have experienced or heard about this. So in India, bridge was collapsed, and many people have died, and some people are still missing. So that's the case. So there's a life lesson for us. So disasters are happening. Disasters are happening every day. So maybe every year. So unless we take necessary actions, we all are in danger. We as individuals or individual businesses or as communities, we are in danger. So it's the right time for us to take actions today. And it's always better to know how we can manage these disasters. So these are some major natural disasters occurred in India. Major disasters, there are many, right? But I have taken some of the disasters happens in 2004, 2013, and 18. So I just wanted to show you that this is continuously happening, right? In 2018 in Kerala, there was a flood occurred, and there were around 483 fatalities, means dead bodies. So the reason for that was the Kerala received 310 millimeters of heavy rainfall in the first 48 hours. So this has led to the overflowing of dams. So finally, the people who were around that area got caught with that flood, and with that 483 people lost their lives. And in 2013, we go back to 9 years back, and there were around 550 plus fatalities. And the reason for that was, again, continuous rainfalls and swelling of the Jhelum River caused a major flood in Kashmir, and it caused damage worth more than 6,000 rupees crores. So it's heavy, and the fatalities mean it's individuals, or those are lives, right? Today or in 2013, it was someone. We don't know next day or next year whether it's you or me who will be being a victim of this disaster. So in tsunami, in 2004, even Sri Lanka, we've got affected by this. There were around more than 225,000 dead bodies or deaths due to tsunami happened in 2004. So it was due to an earthquake with a magnitude of 9.1 to 9.3. So this caused a disaster. So it's the earthquake happened in somewhere around, maybe Andaman, the Andaman Islands in Sri Lanka got affected. Actually, the earthquake happened in Indonesian region, but effect was, we got affected. So why, what's the lesson? So we can't get rid of these disasters today, right? I'll give some more details. Very recently in 2019, later December in China, Wuhan, the first coronavirus patient was detected. Later on, it has been widespread around the globe. And we all know that even Indians once were we reported as the highest rate of corona affected victims, right? This is Indian data. It's look at the figure. It's very long, right? It's very high. And look at the number of, this is cases, reported cases, and look at the number of deaths, right? For 1 or 2 years, more than 530,000 deaths. So those are lives, right? We always value lives. We don't know who have got dead. Maybe sometimes one of your friends or relatives or neighbors got been affected by corona, maybe you, or luckily you are here today, but sometimes one of your friends or relatives might die because of corona. What's this? It's kind of a disaster. So I'll give you some figures. This is UNDRR, or United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Agency. According to their figures, during 2001 to 2020, 20 years of time, this is the annual average number of deaths by the type of disaster. Due to earthquakes, more than 37,000, very close to 38,000 people have died only due to earthquakes. Due to storms, it's very close to 10,500. Maybe due to extreme temperature, it's very close to 9,000. So due to floods, more than 5,000. Due to others, wildfires and all, it's more than 2,000. People died. So those are lives. Then we'll just look at the number of people.
Sorry, sir.
Got,
I would request all
yes,
of students and other members who have joined this session, kindly mute yourself.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. So this is the annual average number of millions, right? People affected. So due to floods, 82.7 million people got affected. Sometimes you and me. And droughts, same, 67.5 million people. Storms, same. So what's the idea? The idea is every day, maybe every minute or every week, people are getting affected by these disasters. So this is for 2000 to 2011 data. This is the past data, but I just wanted to show you what's the economic impact of these disasters. According to this United Nations agency, during 2000 to 2011, only 10 years of time, the economic impact of disasters were around 1.3 trillion US dollars. Look at the number, US dollars. And 2.7 billion people got affected and 1.1 million people got killed, died due to disasters. So unless we take some actions, this figure is going to continue. So you can see an increasing trend here. That means we will lose money. We will lose our value or what we have. So ultimately, it's the resources that we utilize for a non-value adding activity, I would say. Non-value adding activity in the sense we have to spend money unnecessarily for these disasters. So we have to take actions today. So according to India today, nearly 108 people were affected, while 79,732 people have lost their lives in 321 natural incidents in the last 2 decades. If you look at just the past 20 years, only in India, there were 321 reported natural incidents. So it's huge. It's huge. So if there's a natural incident, that means there are consequences like economically affected, we lose economy, and there will be deaths, and for sure millions of people being affected. So unless we take actions, we are in danger. So I'm repeating the sentence: unless we take actions, we will be in danger. Why I'm saying that the term unless we take actions? If we act correctly, we can manage these disasters. That's what we are going to talk today. We can take actions, because for almost all these, sometimes there are things that might be out of our control, but out of the 321, many would be in our control. We can take actions. If we take actions today, we can save later, right? So you all know how disasters harm in general. So these are the harms of disasters. We will lose lives. There can be injuries. There can be damages or disruptions to property. There can be damages or disruptions to subsystems and cash crops. There would be disruptions of production. This is highly affected or highly impacted and highly linked to businesses. Businesses may not be able to continue their production. So as a country, they will lose, and our lifestyle will be disrupted, and our livelihood will be disrupted and lost. And there would be disruptions to essential services like telecommunication, roads, and all. And there will be damages to the informal national infrastructure and disruption to governmental systems. And there will be national economic loss, and there can be sociological and psychological effects. People after disasters, they will lose their normal emotions. They will lose their psychology and physiological fitness. So there are multiple ways a disaster can harm a country. So even though I've talked about a country, I just used the term country, more or less there can be direct or indirect impacts of disasters to businesses, right? Businesses. So that's why it's very important for you as MBA students to know how these disasters harms your business, right? If in a nearby village or nearby city, a disaster happens, would you be able to sustain your business? Would you be able to continue your business without any issue? No, never. There can be direct or indirect effects. You may not be able to get continuously the supply. There can be some power losses, electricity losses. Maybe the affected community might not be able to come to their work. So that definitely employers will have labor shortages. So maybe some essential infrastructure will be disrupted. We may not be able to communicate with our suppliers or our customers, or we may not be able to continue our supply chain. So lots of impacts are there due to disasters. Right. So now we'll look at, so still we have not discussed what the terminology, or we have not look at the definitions of our key terminology. Now we'll look at the key terminology. Before going into disasters, we'll first know this: hazard. What is a hazard? Hazard means it can be an event or events or physical conditions that have the potential to cause negative consequences. So that means before a disaster happens, there can be any events or physical conditions which have the potential to cause. That means that has not been happened actually, but it will happen in the future. There will be a potential to cause. So we call these potentialities as hazards, right? And we should have negative consequences. If we see an event which will generate a negative consequences in the future, we can identify those causes or events as hazards, right? So hazards can come through natural or naturally. Say you see heavy rains, right? So heavy rains means there can be sometimes in the future a flood situation, right? So heavy rains is the event or physical condition, and by later heavy rains will be converted into a flood situation. So flood situation will be the disaster, but heavy rain might cause for negative consequences in the future. So we call these heavy rains as hazards. I hope you got the point. So these types of natural hazards can be seen naturally, right? In our environment, maybe heavy rains, maybe heavy winds, maybe earthquakes can be seen as hazards, because there can be some earthquakes in the ocean which will not generate any negative impacts to the community, to any community. So it will be a hazard, but still it does not generate any difficulty or a disastrous situation. And also there can be some technological hazards. Sometimes man or human develop some items, but ultimately those items will generate negative outcomes in the future. So we identify these as technological hazards. Like say, sometimes we do innovations, there can be some explosions, right? Technology, because of some technological failure, there can be some negative consequences. So we can identify those as even hazards. But intentionally also there can be hazards, like in riots or wars, fights. Those can be intentionally, right? We will discuss this thing in the future later. So that's the first terminology. The second terminology I would like to highlight here is an emergency. Emergency. Sometimes people interchangeably use these terms, hazards, emergencies, and disasters as one, but I would like to show you the differences. There are some differences, maybe minor differences in these terms. Emergency is a different term. Emergency means it's a situation generated by the real or imminent occurrence of an event that requires if we requires an immediate attention for any situation, we call it as an emergency, or we call those events as emergency situations, right? Now, we'll talk about the most important concept for today's session, disasters. Before looking at these disasters, I would like to highlight that all the emergencies are not disasters. Why I'm saying that is, according to this definition, you can clearly identify disaster is a serious disruption of the functioning of the society, causing widespread of human, material, or environmental losses, which exceeds the ability of the affected community to cope up using only its own resources. We call it as a disaster. So there are key terms here. There should be disruption for the society, causing a widespread of human, material, or environmental loss. There should be a loss. That means a negative impact. And the next keyword is which exceeds the ability of the affected community to cope up with your own resources. So that's the key difference between emergency and disasters. There can be some events or actions where people or affected community can cope up with the situation by their own resources. Maybe think about a fire at your house, maybe a small fire. Sometimes you have to attend to that fire quickly. So we call it that it as an emergency, and you have your own capacity to cope up with that situation, right? Maybe think about situation where in a workplace or workstation, there can be immediate attention or an event which requires immediate attention. Maybe a person lost his arm, right? But the people are surrounded by that place can manage the situation by their own resources. So we call it as an emergency, which is a situation where we need immediate attention. Disaster is a bit different, where there should be losses as well as it should exceed the ability of the affected community to cope up with the situation. That means we need some external or third-party support to manage the situation. So all the emergencies are not disasters. Some emergencies are there. Some situations are there where we can manage. But sometimes emergencies, if we do not manage carefully, it will diverted, or if it will transform into disasters. Maybe small fire, if we do not attend quickly, it will finally ended up with as a very huge or large disastrous fire, maybe at a factory. So then they will not be able to cope up with their own resources. They may need the government support, police support, or forces support, or they may need some external parties or volunteer support to solve that problem. So that's the main difference between disaster and emergency. So disasters will occur through hazards. Now you know what is meant by hazard. So hazards will later converted into a disaster. So always hazards are there. That means potential causes. Some potential hazards will not continue thereafter. Say, sometimes heavy rains are there, but heavy rains we can manage. Even though if it's heavy rain, we can walk, we can go, we can do our day-to-day business without any problem, unless it causes it converted to a flood. Flood is a disaster. We may not be able to cope up with our own resources. We might need external support. So some hazards will convert into disasters, and some hazards will not convert into disasters. They will remain as hazards, and sometimes the hazardous zones even can be vibrated. For an example, heavy rains, if the heavy rain ends, the hazard is over. So there's no more hazard since there's no more rain. But some hazards, if it's heavy rain, if it causes to a overflow or a dam, that means it will definitely ended up with a disaster. So some hazards can be converted into disasters and some hazards will not. So the idea is, if we can identify hazards, not the disasters. Disasters is the second phase. First phase is the hazard. If we can address these hazards wisely, we can mitigate, we can reduce many of the hazards. So main problem in our community or in our communities is we are not catering or we are not managing these hazards. We are not addressing these hazards wisely. So disaster management is about how we are managing these hazards and how we can take actions to these. Now, let's move. Now, if you could remember, when we talk about these hazards, we identified 3 types of hazards: natural hazards, technological hazards, and intentional hazards. So as you know now, all the disasters are results of converting the hazards into disasters. Therefore, disasters too, we can identify or categorize as natural disasters, technological disasters, and intentional disasters. If natural hazards become a disaster, we call them as natural disasters. If technological hazards become a disaster, we call them as technological. And similarly, if intentional hazards converted into a disaster, we call them as intentional disasters. And if you carefully look at these technological and intentional, there's human involvement. Therefore, we can combine both of these technological and intentional disasters and have a common name as man-made disasters. That means some are naturally happen, some are man-made, right? People develop or make these disasters. Now, first look at the natural types of disasters. Natural disasters are the disasters occur regardless of the presence of a man. There can be hurricanes, there can be floods or earthquakes, tsunamis, maybe volcanic effects, maybe droughts. There can be many. So if a disaster happens without the presence of man, we call them as natural disasters. So there can be so many types, like geological, where we involve earth, we can say as examples, earthquakes, landslides, and volcanoes. And there can be meteorological. It happens as tornadoes, or ice storms, or droughts. In the ocean, we can have oceanographic disasters like hurricanes or tsunamis. Hydrologically, we can experience flooding, or biologically, there can be some wildfires or insect infections, and there can be many. Right? If you look at the technological side, these are the negative consequences of human innovation that results in harm or disruptions of life, property, or environment. But here in technological, these negative consequences come due to a failure of something, right? This is not intentionally done, but due to a failure of something that can be happen. Say, for an example, we produce some hazardous materials and processes, and the inventors or developers, they might not have any intention to convert this or develop this as to a disaster, but there can be some nuclear bomb, or not bombs actually, nuclear effects, impacts, or leaks, which will ultimately convert it into a technological disaster. There can be some dangerous processes, or there can be some devices as machines. We develop it. Say, for an example, we develop trains or aircraft, but suddenly due to plane crash or train crash, there can be a disaster, right? That might happen. Or there can be some dams, mines, or power plants which might have some failures, or it might be a technological disasters. The bridge I have shown you at the very beginning of this session, it's an installation of plant. So it's that was collapsed, unfortunately. So it has become a technological disaster. There was no intention to harm people, but ultimately it's resulted in a harm. But there can be some intentional disasters as well, because some people or some communities or groups, they want to intentionally develop disasters, or intentionally they want to have disasters in their communities. So intentional disasters include those disasters that exist not due to an accident, but as a result of conscious decision, a man act, right? Consciously people do. So as managers, we have to know for sure that these can be happen even at our workplace, right? So there can be some crowds like riots or demonstrations or civil unrest actions, union actions, some riots can be there. So if we do not take actions at the very beginning, at the end, the results might be very large. So we have to even identify these intentional disasters as well. There can be some terrorism types of disasters as well, intentionally, like bombing, explosions and all. But at the same time, there can be some incidents where we can expect some civil unrest situations. Right. With that understanding, now we will move to a proper definition of a disaster. So now you know that by looking at, by hearing to the lecture that we have so far, a disaster is an event which can have natural or man-made, which can be a natural or man-made event, and it can happen suddenly or progressively. Say for an example, earthquake is very sudden, very sudden. We don't know when it will happen, but there are some progressive disasters as well. Say for an example, drought situation. So tomorrow we can't expect drought. So drought means it takes a very long time, maybe 6 months or maybe 1 year or at least few months to convert, to have a drought situation. Even flooding, it's not very sudden, but it's short term. If we expect heavy rains for a continuous period of time, maybe for 2-3 days or maybe weeks, then we can expect flooding. That means, unless it's a very sudden one, if it's a progressive event, we have enough time to get prepared to face these disasters, right? The preparation time is higher. Right? Say for an example, if it in the tsunami case, maybe tsunami, the earthquake happens in Sumatra Islands, maybe it will take maybe 6 hours or 5 hours at least to reach our 2 countries, India and Sri Lanka. So we have ample of time to get prepared to reduce the losses. So we can evacuate people, we can take actions, we can send warning messages, and we can ask everybody to leave these places, even take the valuable items with them, belongings with them. So if a disaster, so most of the disasters, if you categorize, are not sudden, are progressive. So we can take actions before. But even for sudden disasters, we can take actions before. We will discuss it later. An event, natural or man-made, sudden or progressive, which impacts with such severity that the affected community has to respond by taking exceptional measures. They have to take measures. It's again can be defined as it's a serious disruption occurring over a relatively short time of the functioning of the community or a society involving widespread human, material, economic, and environmental loss. So the loss can be economic, the loss can be human, material, or it can be even environmental, and impacts with exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope up with your own resources, We have discussed this. With that, we'll look at some common characteristics of disaster definitions. It disrupts the normal pattern of life, right? It's sudden. It can be sudden, unexpected, or widespread. And its effects for loss of life, injuries, hardships, and all. It affects on social, cultural, and disrupt the damage of the government system and all. So at the end, sometimes we have to provide communities shelters, maybe foods, clothing, medical assistance, and all, or even social care to safeguard them. So with this, we'll look at how disasters can harm a country, right, in detail. So you know that as management students, we know that we have only limited resources. Since we have limited resources, we have to use these limited resources effectively and efficiently. So when we use our resources to one project, and if the resources should again be reversed, that means there can be a development lag. So national and international development efforts are stunned, erased, and even reversed. Why? Sometimes the resources that we have used maybe to develop a road, maybe a highway, should be again reallocated to disaster recovery efforts. So development efforts should be stopped. Sometimes a sizable portion of GDP, gross domestic product, often must be diverted from development projects to disaster consequences. That can also happen. Sometimes vital infrastructure get damaged, sometimes roads, airports, communication systems, and all, even power generations, all. So it requires years to rebuild. So the development of the nation even get stopped. Even for businesses, formal and informal businesses are destroyed, resulting in surge in unemployment and a decreased economic stability, strength. So it's a harm for a country. Sometimes due to the reconstruction efforts, there can be shortages of material and labor, there can be supply chain effects, and this will in turn drive up for cost inflations, inflate the salaries, and draw workers away from other sectors where they needed. So schools, if schools are got damaged, definitely it will impact on the education of a country for a month. So you might know, due to you might have experience even due to coronavirus, what has happened to the education system of the many part of the country. Lot of education institutes, they have, due to lack of technological infrastructure they could not move to online education. Therefore, the education system was collapsed in many countries of the world, especially poor countries. And so hospitals and clinics are damaged, destroyed. So if hospitals are damaged, so it's increasing the vulnerability of diseases affected in the population. Right? Sometimes residents are forced and impelled to leave the affected zone. So due to that, the culture they had or the institutional knowledge they had, it will get damaged. It will widespread. So they might not be able to afford it by using their resources. Even we can expect some crime and insecurity because people will have no money. So it will lead to crime and insecurity of the nation or maybe in that region. Finally, the people will have the feeling of hopelessness, which is the worst case, right? You know that even a very poor man, if well educated, and if we give a proper hope to them, we can bring that man to a wealthy man. We can convert the poorest to a wealthy person. But if they do not have a hope to their life, it will badly damage the entire nation. So the best option for us to manage disasters, right? We can, if we take actions today, we can manage disasters. So what is disaster management? It's the management of risk so that the societies can live with environmental and technical hazards. So hazards can be there, right? But we can reduce the risk. And we can empower the societies to So that is disaster management according to WAR 2000. More than 2016 defined disaster management as disaster management essentially deals with management of resources and information towards a disastrous event and is measured by how efficiently and effectively and seamlessly one coordinates these resources. So we have resources. We have resources. If we can utilize these resources well, we can manage this risk and we can enable the people or community to live with these environmental or technological hazards and deal with them. So that's should be our target. So we can't, that means nobody can do it alone. So this should be a collaborative effort. So we have to have a collaboration of mainly 3 parties. Definitely government should support the disaster management, and private sector should support, and also the community should support this. So it's a collaborative action of all these 3 parties. Government has a separate role, private sector, that means the businesses and all, they have to have a separate plan, and they should support these efforts, and as well as community should support at their best. That means public should support at their best. Otherwise, if any of these parties is not there, it will not be a fruitful effort. And I know I have seen in Indian government, they have a very strong one. Even the disaster management authority is under the Prime Minister of India. That means the government full support is there to manage these disasters. Of course, we have to get the private sector involvement in managing disasters, and community has a very large, huge role to play in disasters, in managing disasters. So what is disaster management? Simply, it's a coordinated effort to mitigate against, prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies and their effects in the shortest possible time. So when we have emergencies or when we have hazards, what we have to do, we have to mitigate them, we have to prepare them, we have to respond to them, we have to recover them. So there are 4 terms here, very important for all of us to learn, to remember: mitigate, prepare, respond, and recover. So if we carefully engage and do these 4 actions, we can manage a lot of disasters. Now we'll see the practical aspect of this. So this is I have got this from Sri Lankan website. This is actually from 2021. International Disaster Risk Reduction Day is on 13th October. We recently celebrated it. In the last year, actually, we had the international event as Sri Lankans to commemorate the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction with the theme of COVID-19 pandemic and the system risk. We celebrated here. For sure, I think even India has done that. And there's a framework for that. We call it as Sendai framework with 7 targets. So these are the 7 targets. Like in SDG or Sustainable Development Goals, UNDRR or United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction, they have developed a framework known as Sendai framework, which outlines 7 global targets to achieve by 2030. There are 4 targets where we should try to reduce those, and 3 targets where we should target on increasing those. So like we have to reduce the global disaster mortality, we have to reduce the number of affected people globally, and we have to reduce the direct economic loss in relation to GDP. And likewise, I'm not going to read them all. You can search, and you just go to UNDRR website, you will see, and there's a chart for that. And this is not time to go through all these things because of the limited time we have. So just go and search what we can do, right? It outlines these 7 targets, and four main themes, and how and what we can do for that. What's the ultimately what we can do. So when we look at this, now we know we can act on disasters. So it's not just events happens. If we carefully step onto this, we can manage this. So in managing the disasters, there's the famous cycle on disaster management. We call it as a disaster management cycle. In some cycles, there are more than these 4 phases, but in this cycle, there are 4 phases, and this is the most commonly used cycle in disaster management. That's why I have used this for today's presentation. So you know that this is the event or bad event we experience. So this is the starting point, the triangle here. So in this cycle, we have 4 actions: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Actually, 2 actions are there: mitigation action and preparedness action. So these 2 actions actually we can do before a disaster happens. Right? We don't even need to wait till a disaster happens. We can take actions even before that. So mitigation and preparation efforts are taken before the disaster happens. And even after the bad event or consequence happens, we can take these 2 actions: response and recovery. So it goes like mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Right? So these are pre-impacts. This is, mitigation and preparedness are pre-impacts. So we can take some actions in advance. Even at the same time, even after a disaster happens, we can take some planned actions after a disaster. Now we'll look at what are these actions. So mitigation means reducing or minimizing an impact of a disaster, hazard, or a disaster. So even before a disaster happens, we can take actions to reduce or minimize the impact, right? So some examples might be taking some long-term solutions to reduce risk, right? Say, for an example, if it's a flood situation, floods is a disaster. Even before rain comes, we can take some actions. Say we analyze why flood occurs. Maybe it's might be due to some blockages in drainage systems. Maybe water flow is not enough. Sometimes there are some blocks in drains.
Right.
There can be so many effects, right? Maybe a flood situation. Maybe think about an earthquake. Not an earthquake. We'll take a landslide. A landslide might be caused because people cut trees in hill areas. So if we do not cut trees, we will not have that hazard or disaster. So even though heavy rains occurs, there will not be any landslides because we can take actions to plant trees in hill areas, country areas. So that's an action we can take before a disaster to reduce or minimize the hazard. First, we try to reduce the disaster, or else we should try to minimize the impact. If we are taking those type of actions, we call them as mitigation actions. One of the good actions are maybe building codes, or maybe giving rules, norms, regulations, or doing an analysis and take action. So maybe sometimes giving public education is a good thing, right? So if in a flood situation, you better go to these places. We educate them. So there will be no human losses. So most of the developed countries, since they have a very good public education systems, even though there are disasters, even natural disasters, they do not experience human losses. Think about, especially in Japan, they are facing earthquakes throughout their calendar year, but the number of deaths are very minimal compared to developing countries like India and Sri Lanka. Then we can get prepared or plan out on how to respond, right? If a disaster happens, if a flood situation happens, this is how you have to respond. So we can plan out. Say, for an example, we can have a preparedness plans. We can have maps. We can have some shelters. We can plan out and build up some shelters, and we can set up some emergency units. To maybe having some warning systems and on. And even we can, the next stage is actually, so these two stages, planning, mitigation, and preparedness are done before a disaster happens. Even after a disaster happens, we have to respond. This response is not just responding. So this is again a planned response. We can plan out, even before disaster happens, we can plan out how we can respond. So these are the initial actions we can take immediately after a disaster, right? So it involves efforts to minimize the hazards created by a disaster, because sometimes once a disaster happens, it will create secondary hazards. If you do not act wisely, you act knowledgeably. So for an example, floods are there, and we try to evacuate people, and once we try to evacuate people, people get died because of wrong approach. So response is again should be a very stressful and very knowledgeable or skillful activity. So we can plan out on how to evacuate, how the search and rescue should be done, who should be done, and we can plan out accordingly, right? And once we respond at the disaster, we also should take actions to recover the community back to normal. So returning the community back to normal is another process. So we have to even plan out that. Ideally, the affected area should be put into conditions equal or to a better condition, which was before, right? So sometimes we can have temporary housing, grants, or medical care, many, right? So that's, of course, should be planned out, and we have to work on that. If we work well on mitigation and preparedness, if we work well on these two aspects, mitigation and preparedness, we can reduce the effort that we can put on, that we have to put on response and recovery. So it should be always, we have to give priority to mitigation and preparedness. Then we can reduce the efforts that we can put on response and recovery. Right. So there are two aspects, right? As I told you, response and recovery based efforts are there. Prevention and risk reduction efforts are there. So these are two different approaches. So in response and recovery, what we do is we primarily focus on the disaster events. So response and recovery happens after disasters. So if our efforts are taken after disasters, our primary focus on disaster event, and maybe our primary focus is on a single event, or event-based scenarios are developed. But if we take actions even before a disaster, prevention and risk reduction or mitigation and preparedness efforts, we work according to our vulnerability analysis or risk. We identify the hazards, not the disaster. We identify the hazards and work on these vulnerabilities. And this will not just limited to only one disaster. This will focus on multiple risk issues. Right? Response recovery efforts are, since it's based on one disaster, it's fixed and the location is very specific. But here in prevention and risk reduction efforts, it's extended, changing, And we have to look at the variety of, we can look at variety of disasters, right, through a disaster proper analysis. This is in response and recovery, it's urgent, immediate and short-term time frames. Even we don't have much time for planning attention because it's sudden. Because once disaster happens, only we take actions. But in prevention and reduction, since we have time, we can take some more moderate to long-term planning efforts, right? And here we can, in response and recovery, we normally go on, we depend on specialized expertise. If it's a floods, we go for specialized expertise on floods. If it's an earthquake, we look for specialized advisors on earthquake. But in prevention and risk reduction, since we are looking at a very broad aspect, it's very wide, we are looking for specialized expertise in different areas, as well as we are gaining views from the public, as well as we get ideas from some people who are surrounded by that area, who have experienced this before and who have any knowledge on this. So, right. So there are differences, like here primary, authorized or single information sources, but here it's open or public information, multiple, diverse or changing sources. Here the basic responsibility is to respond to disasters, but in prevention and risk reduction, it's not just to respond, it's fundamental need analysis, monitor and update, and it's for a changing condition. Now, I'm coming to the end of the presentation. Just wanted to show how the disaster can develop impact, can impact on the development, maybe for a company or for a nation. It's like this. So we'll take this as the horizontal axis as time and the vertical axis as development. So when the time passes, the country is developing, or the country or company is developing. So we can see a growth in development. Suddenly, if a disaster happens, this is the dotted line shows if the disaster is not there, how we progress. But since the disaster is there, our development comes down, right? Comes down. If we effectively manage the disaster, we can again bring back our development up to a certain extent. So that means we have a effective disaster recovery effort. Since we have an effective disaster recovery effort, we can again continue our development efforts. But if we do not effectively manage the disaster, if our disaster management is poor, that means our development efforts even come down. Our development come down to a very minimum. And if we do not have a effective disaster recovery, if we have a poor disaster recovery, look at the slope of this line, or red color line, and this purple color line, and compare the slopes. In effective disaster recovery, we have a steep slope, but in poor disaster recovery, we can't expect that. Because of that, it will take some time for us to come back to normal, right? So this is the dotted line shows how our development rates will progress. The first line or the upper line shows if there's no disaster, how we go. And second line shows how if we use effective disaster management and effective disaster recovery, how we can continue. And the last line shows in a poor disaster management and a poor disaster recovery stage, how we can continue. So we can see clearly there is a loss. There is a loss. So due to this loss, there can be some time lags So we might need some reliefs for reconstructions. It takes some time, but due to this, we can expect some development lags. So if we can't, our development efforts, if we can't, if it's not capable enough to bring it to a normal, definitely there will be a development lag. Therefore, it's a misuse of our resources. So we have to take immediate actions, and otherwise there will be a development lag. If it's a development lag, that means it's very far from what we want to be, right? So this is same to a country, this is same to a company, this is same to a region, or this is same to the entire world. So if disasters are not there, we will be much ahead than we are today, because a lot of our efforts, knowledge, infrastructure support, and our development efforts, money are spent on these disasters, right? So I want to, so actually, even though we talk about these natural disasters, most of the disasters are not natural, right? It's how we understand the disaster risk. So disaster risk comes from the hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. If we can reduce or make one of these zero, if we can make one of these zero, our risk is zero. If hazard is there, right? Hazard is there. If we can convert the hazard into a zero, no hazards thereafter, will there be a disaster? No disaster risk then. If vulnerability is not there, disaster risk is zero, right? Vulnerability means the propensity. Say, you are from Uttar Pradesh. Many of you are from Uttar Pradesh. So compared to Delhi, maybe in one state in Uttar Pradesh, the vulnerability is low because economic vulnerability, because in Delhi or Mumbai, it's high compact, a lot of development efforts are there. So if one disaster happens, the damage is higher because of high popularity, high economic development, and all, compared to a lower region, right? We'll take one country, when one region in your country, very rural region and a very developed region. If the same kind of a disaster happened, same kind of a flood happened, look at how look at the economic, social law, environmental loss those two experience. So definitely the developed area, they have higher losses because they are highly vulnerable. If, right? But if we can reduce this vulnerability, or if we can reduce this exposure or hazard, we can reduce these disasters. So it's always what we have to do, understand is, unless we take actions, we have to face disasters every day. If we take actions today, we can reduce disasters. So I would like to end this with a video which gives a very good message. Right. With that, I would like to end up my presentation. Thank you very much. So the one last message is, so you have to get prepared. You have to plan out. Then you have seen in this video, if we spent $1 for planning or preparedness, we can save $7. So it's huge. The impact is huge. The effort, if you put at the beginning or before a disaster happens, will save lots of lives, even the environment, society, and all. It's a good relief to everyone. So that's what we can do to save the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed a pleasure having you with us. And students enjoyed it so very much. You talked at length about so many issues about disasters, hazards, uh, mitigation, response, recovery, overcoming the disasters. So you have dealt on with every aspect of disaster and its management. It was such a wonderful session. All of us here at my department, my colleagues, students, everybody enjoyed this session. There is an echo. Please mute other systems also. Sir, we have received questions from the student. If you allow me, I will be taking some of the questions. May I, sir?
Yeah, yes, sure, doctor. Yes, sir. I think Dr. Neenal can't is mic is open. That's why it's yeah, right. Now
it's okay.
Yeah.
So we will take some of the questions being given to us. So there is a very interesting question which says, what is role of insurance in disaster management? Insurance.
All right. Yeah. It's a very interesting question. What's the role of insurance? So yes, what we have practiced is having insurance. So that is for our sake. But for the national sake, insurance, yes, will work. Insurance will work, but we might not be able to reduce the impact of the disaster by just an insurance. Insurance is maybe and we expect an economic benefit for ourselves, maybe for a company. If a disaster happens, if they lose their machinery, vehicles, or building collapse, they try to, in order to build up their infrastructure back to normal, they use insurance. It's same to a country, same to a person individually, but it will not reduce the impact or the magnitude of the impact. Right. Therefore, insurance is only a one part. Just we need at the recovery stage in order for us to recover back to normal. But we have to do individual tasks at the very beginning to reduce the impact. So the money we want to spend on insurance will be also come down.
Every year, yours and our country too faces the hurricane. In the coastal areas, the hurricane. Yeah. Every year, Srilanka, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, all these Indian Ocean countries, hurricane. And we are troubled so much by these hurricanes. Every year, there is a loss of property and damage of business and other things too. Sir, there is another question. What are preparedness measures to cope up with the effects of disaster?
There are, thank you for the question. Question is, what are the preparedness actions to cope up with disasters? Actually, there are a lot. It again differ from disaster to disasters. When it comes to disaster mitigation, so since we do not have time, we have not gone up to many details. When it comes to disasters, first we have to do a disaster analysis. First, we have to identify what are the disasters that we face. Say, for an example, I think since you are in Uttar Pradesh, you do not experience tsunami, no, you don't experience.
We are not in coastal. We are landlocked.
Yeah, you are landlocked. Therefore, you you have to first say, imagine a business is in Uttar Pradesh, you have to do a proper disaster analysis, which is relevant for your context, for your geographical area. So your disaster analysis might be completely different from one's who is doing a disaster in Mumbai or maybe in Chennai. So it's very contextual. Say Sri Lanka, we are a coastal area, but we don't, we have tsunamis in one, we can experience tsunamis in one region, but we don't have volcanoes, right? But there are some countries who are very close by to coastal areas which have volcanoes. So first we have to do a proper disaster or environmental hazard analysis and identify what are the hazards. So according to the hazards only, we can do preparedness, because preparedness actions are again hazard specific. Some actions we are taking for floods, preparedness actions we are taking for floods are different from disaster actions we are taking for earthquakes. So it's again, it's a lengthy topic actually. We can discuss in detail. We have to do a proper analysis. Its simple idea is, if we experience hazards, we know in and out of the hazards, we should know what will happen if the disaster comes. Say if a flood occurs, what will happen? So, and we have, if we want to respond to it, what we have to do. So what we have to do is the preparedness stage. So rather than waiting till the disaster comes, we take actions before it. Maybe for a flood, we can take some air-floated boats in order to maintain our transportation systems. That's the preparedness actions. We train our people to ride boats. We train our people or people to swim, maybe how to wear a life jacket properly and how to save their lives. So those are preparedness actions that we can take before a disaster. So
in the year, sir, 2013, there was a Kedarnath tragedy in the Kedarnath mountains. There was a huge cloud burst. That was a great disaster. And after that, India made a provision. We have a dedicated force called National Disaster Relief Management Force, NDRF. And in different provinces, different states of India, we have SDRF, State Disaster Relief Management. So this dedicated force takes care of all such disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes. Yesterday too, sir, on 14th of November at 2:35, we experienced earthquake at 2:35 noon in Prayagraj, in our city. It was a 3.2 Richter scale. So that is why it was not non-hazardous kind of earthquake.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, sir, you have a very good idea of India, its states and various cities. How is it so?
Actually, I just searched before this one. I just searched, and I have been to India twice. Once to I have been to Chennai and had just a small visit there, and in Delhi and Agra and North. And before coronavirus, I came to Manali and Shimla.
Oh, that's great.
Experience. And actually, I personally experienced winter kind of a storm, snowfall. Even couldn't, I was locked up in a hotel. We couldn't move because of the snowfall. All the roads are blocked.
That's a beautiful place. Manali is Himachal Pradesh. That's in Himachal.
Yeah.
Ours is it is erstwhile Allahabad. Before 2018, it was known as Allahabad. It has been rechristened, renamed as Prayagraj. Now this whole city. This is actually the king of all pilgrimages, the Tirtha Raja.
Is that so? Good.
Prayagraj. Near to Varanasi, the Kashi.
Varanasi.
Near to Varanasi. Allahabad is some 100 kilometers from Varanasi.
Yeah, if time permits.
Please do visit. We are inviting, sir.
Yes,
we are inviting. Whenever you find time, please do visit. And it's a humble invitation from our side to you personally.
Sure,
Sir,
sure.
there is another question.
Yes.
What are the challenges of disaster management in current scenario in India and Sri Lanka?
Yes, thank you. It's again a very good and timely question. What are the challenges? So there are a lot of challenges here to manage disasters. Since Sri Lanka and India, we are in the same cultural situation. One of the biggest challenge we have is the culture, because what we believe, we sometimes we accept risks. If we ask people to leave the area, they have some beliefs, maybe to gods, maybe because the people think that the god will protect them. That belief is there even in Sri Lankan people. They do not like to change their place. So if it's a hazardous place, if we ask them to leave those places and go to a very safer place, they don't like to change their motherland. That means their native place.
Right.
They want to be in their place, and they say, "I will die. It's okay for me to die in this place. I'm not leaving this
Right.
place." That culturally, we have that problem actually,
Right.
and that's a challenge for us. And again, is to manage disasters. It's very costly, right? Costly in the sense because we don't see the impact. No, we plan and we expect something and spend. So government, since we don't have lot of money, we do not like to spend money for anticipated problems.
Right.
Because we have a lot of problems, other problems to spend money for. So spending money is another problem. Another problem is maybe there is we don't have higher technology and other resources. So a lot of people die because of lack of technology, because now there are lots of techniques in developed world to mitigate these things. For an example, in Japan, since they experience earthquakes, but the number of deaths are very lower because they have novel technologies in building buildings. They have shock absorber kind of things in our buildings. The building just moves; it does not collapse. But we don't have technologies in our countries. It's another problem. And another problem is our people are not educated about disaster management. So those countries, from their childhood, they are trained on disasters, how to survive, how to identify a hazard, and how to act and all. But in our education systems, we do not teach them on disaster management from our childhood, because this should be inculcated into the school curriculum from the very beginning, because everyone will be affected.
Right.
Likewise, there are a lot of challenges, and even political political problems are also there. Instabilities, and sometimes the political support is not there, because when allocating resources, there are some corruptions and all. And since they do not get commissions, it's not coming to the people who are really need them.
Right.
And NGOs and all, they have their own agendas.
Right.
So those are some
Right.
common challenges we are facing.
So thank you so very much, sir. It was indeed a
you.
pleasure having you here and listening to you on such a wonderful topic. This was really a very interesting topic and very useful, full of utility. Everybody enjoyed here so much, sir. Students have enjoyed it so very much. These questions, so many questions we have received, are a mark of their interest and presence. So they, on behalf of them, I really thank you. And we are grateful. We will always be grateful for the valuable moments that you spared for us. And you have been with us for almost 2 hours. From 1 p.m. you are with us. Thank you very much, sir, being so cordial and so generous towards and accepting our request. Sir, we have our director, Dr. Mrinal Kanti Manik sir with us. He will be formally extending the vote of thanks to you, sir. On behalf of the institute, he will be extending vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to all the members associated with this program. LDC Institute of Technical Studies already reached to the end of their journey of 5 days long international guest lecturer from the various part of the Indian professors, those who share their knowledges in the different field of their expertise. And finally, with the view of the conclusion, I am really grateful and pleasure to give a vote of thanks at the end of the day. I, Dr. Mrinal Kanti Manik, serving this institute from last 3 years as a glorious and knowledgeable academic environment of LDC Institute of Technical Studies, Prayagraj. I really overwhelmed by listening these all 5 days programs and sharing the views of different professors of South Asia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Emirates, Dubai, as well as Nepal, Kathmandu. There are the 5 different domain and top academics. They share their views and give a beautiful examples each and every parameter of their journey and the field. I am really thanks to all these professors, asking from the initial day, Mr. Ali Akkas said to today, Achintha Ekanayake from Sri Lankan University, being a young professor, he delivered one of the vast topic as a disaster and its management, and how these to be controlled and how it to be minimized by the preparedness of the government, privates, as well as all corporate sectors. Really, it's a wonderful topic, and at present, due to the natural calamities and the behavior of the ill effect of the natural calamities, it is very, very essential to know about the each and individual, and the basically in the paradigm of the academic culture to calculate the risks and the preparedness. Really, thanks from my heart, Mr. Achintha, though he has made his journey, I think it's a few years early, and despite of that, he delivered a good topic as well as narrates in elaborately, and with the at the end, I got the final result as a near about 85% calamities, betray or the illness effect can be minimized by the preparedness and the rescue operation. Really, I provide my thanks and heartiest congratulations to Achintha as his good lecture and the privilege to share his knowledge in the academic forum. I really glad to give a vote of thanks to my beloved chairman, Mr. Sanjay Gupta. He would generate the academic culture and the preparedness of these 5 continuous long series of guest lecture throughout the all academician in the continuous 5 days. I also give a thanks to Mr. Shreyas Gupta, leading and new budding academician who has given a continuous support to make this journey and make a presentable 5 days long guest lecture by this institute. And not only the effect to each and every member, I cordially invite as a support to Mr. Dr. Sudhanshu Singh and his team. Dr. Sudhanshu is not only one academician, he is one of the beautiful architectural member of the academic culture. He is none of the faculty though I have gone through a lot many faculties in different parts of India. I served 3 technical universities as well as in the Central University in Calcutta. Despite of that, I can say the journey in my academic career, I really appreciate Dr. Sudhanshu Singh for his beautiful collaboration and always sharing his views with the collaboration of the other countries and the association in the academic part. Really thanks to Dr. Sudhanshu Singh as well as all the members associated to Dr. Sudhanshu in LDC Institute of Technical Studies. I provide my thanks and gratitude to all the members, all the support team of LDC Institute of Technical Studies and the journey of 5 days continuous guest lecture all about the different programs. Not last but not least, to all the students, all my dear students, those who associated with this program for continuous 5 days, and they shared their valuable times to learn and listen and to make a culture, being academic, how the academic part to be developed and can be enhanced by listening, by sharing, and by making their various questions in the different collaboration and perspectives. I provided thanks to all my dear students and the listeners, those who attentively put their valuable time to make this 5 days guest lecture as a great success. Thank you, each and every member, and thank you, Mr. Achintha Ekanayake from Sri Lankan University.
Thank you very much, Director Sir. Sir, on behalf of my institute, I owe a great sense of gratitude towards, not only towards you, but my salute to the great seat of learning called Sabargamuwa University, and to the great land you belong to, Beliluluhoya, and the Sri Lanka, the great land that you belong to. So our salute to both your university and to the great land of Sri Lanka. Hats off to you for being with us for so long. Almost more than 2 hours you have been with us, spared your valuable moments. You talked at length about disaster, hazard, and its various aspects: mitigation, response, responsibility, overcoming hazards. So it has been a wonderful session with you, sir. And in near future, we are looking forward to have a wonderful, even more wonderful session with you, and have a physical interaction with you whenever you find time, sir. Please do visit our country. Please do visit our state and our institute. It's a humble invitation from our side, and we are and we will always be grateful for you for this wonderful session, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sudhanshu Singh, for inviting me. So I saw from the very beginning, once you contacted me, the enthusiasm you had to conduct this session fruitfully.
Right.
You had continuous dialogue with me, and want to make sure that this happens nicely. And I also think, as Dr. Reena said, you are a good architect of this academic culture and bringing new concepts in this academic world to do the best as academics to the nations and to the world. Thank you very much, Dr. Sudhanshu, and thank you very much for inviting me. I will try my level best. If I visit one day, I will visit your institute, and I'd like to keep in touch and have continuous dialogue with you, continuous contacts with you, interaction.
If it is not possible physically, we can have an interaction online through online medium too, sir.
Yes, yes.
And I think we should be in continuous touch with this.
Yes. Yeah, sure. And I will have a later. I will have a chat with you again, and what else we can do as to both.
Oh yes,
use.
we welcome.
Thank you very much.
So thank you. Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the conclusion of this session. Thank you very much.